There we go. So I'll start sharing my whole screen, and I'm going to start with my PC, and then for the Screencastify questions, I'm going to move to using my laptop to talk through that, because there have been some questions about embedding your webcam and switching that on and off during the video. So I'm going to talk through that a little bit later by using my laptop for that one. To start with, I'm going to start with the first question I got through, and that was about slide deck templates. So I shared this a couple of weeks ago now. It feels like a lifetime ago, if I'm honest. And that was how to create a template slide so that students can then go in and they cannot edit the text that you've put on as a teacher. So if you're putting in instructions, a question, or a piece of text that you want your students to then respond to in a slide deck, I'll just quickly recap how we did that. So what I'm going to do, I'm in Google Slides at the moment, so I'm just going to File, New, and select Presentation. This is another way of creating a blank slide deck. There's so many different ways of doing this. Slide.new is the one that I typically use. And then what I'm going to do, I always delete what's on the slide. And this gives me my blank canvas. Now, in the initial session, I showed you how to make it so it was A4 paper size. That's obviously not important when we're working on computers most of the time, as we're not printing the same as we would do in class. I'm not going to do that today. I've now got this blank template. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start laying out my task. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some lines. Now, these are not going to be perfect, because I am not bothering to waste your time watching me make lines straight this morning. That would not be good use of time. And I am going to make a grid. So I'll just make this in the middle. I'll maybe have to move this over. Let's just make this grid really quickly. I'm going to make these boxes. So this is the start of my template. So I've got this, as you can see, definitely not straight. And now I'm going to add a text box into the middle. So this is if I was doing a planning task, or if you wanted students to do a vocabulary list or practice different sounds. So I'm going to add a fill so I don't see this background color. So I'll select the bucket icon within Google Slides. I've just zoomed in too far, it's gone away. There we go. So the fill color. Now I can make this white, or if I had a colored background, I could do that too. I'm now going to add the same kind of width of line round about. And now if I double click there, I can then start to add the text. Now, since we did this session, Slides is updated. So now, rather than selecting from the drop-down menu for this font size, we now have these plus or minus icons. So Slides, all of these tools are always being updated. So if I just select the plus, I can change this one size at a time. There we go. So I will do sounds in the middle. So this is me quite happy with that. I'll add a few more text boxes. And what I will do is I'll just have the sound. This is me being all primary teacher. So if you're secondary, think about how this would be relevant to yourselves. I'm just going to use the same sound. And what I'm doing here is I'm copying and pasting the text box, and you'll notice I've changed the text alignment as well, so that it goes over to the right when it's in the right hand side and over to the left on the left hand side. And that's just for my little OCD there. You don't have to do that. So now I've got this. Obviously you would spend a bit more time setting this template up. I'm now going to go to File, Download, and it's important that we choose one of the image options. It doesn't matter if you choose the JPEG or PNG, so long as it's image, that's all that we need to do. So I'll just select JPEG for now. To make sure I've got the chat open. So now along the bottom, you'll see I have this download. I didn't give this a name. You would probably give it your template as a name, or you can use it just and give the task its name directly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete everything off the slide, because these are all things, if my students went onto this, they'd be able to move everything, and it just won't be the way that I want it to be. So what I'm going to do before I do anything with the background, I'm going to select, that's by clicking and dragging. If I click and drag around the whole slide, it will select everything. Hopefully it's going to do it. There we go. So you'll see it's selected everything. Now I'm going to delete this, and that will go away. But I've still got this picture. So if I click on this picture at the bottom, you'll see this is my slide that I created. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to the background of my slide. So by selecting background in the slides area along the top, we've got the background option. I can choose an image. And for this, I'm going to upload from my computer. And this is right here in my uploads or my downloads even, ready for me to open. And this will go onto the slide background. So the choose image, it's there. I can see it very faintly in the background and I can select done. Now, I cannot move any of these lines or these boxes. These are fixed. Now, one of the other questions we had was creating slide deck templates and having multiple pages. So if you wanted to do that, I'm going to do a whole heap of undos right now, and you wanted to have several pages, I can right click on this and duplicate slide. So I right click on the slide on the left hand side and I can select duplicate slide, and then I can go in and I could change this before I go and download. So if I'm doing this vocabulary bank, for example, I can then change that so that the students have a few slides to work on. Now, when you select that file, download, and one of the image options, it will only download that one slide that you're working on. So you will need to do this for each slide that you want to have in the background. So if I select this one again, I would delete everything off the slide, and I'm going to select background, choose image. Now this time, because I still have this download bar at the bottom telling me I've got this untitled presentation and it's got that JPEG, which tells me it's a picture, I can click on that and drag it from that bar at the bottom and let go, and then that will allow that to go into the background as well. So you can either choose from your files and browse, or you can do that and click and drag it in. So I've selected done. Now that's ready. So as I said in that session, if you click and put in text boxes where you want your students to type, just make sure you put in a edit text box, for example, and then you can copy and paste these. So if I copy and paste, you can then pop these where you want your students to edit. So then now the only thing they're able to use are these text boxes that I've put in. Now I've gone through this in the session on creating slides. So if you do want to go and spend a bit more time looking at this, go through that session, and I'm aware I've gone through that quite quickly right now. But this means now if I share this in my class, the students cannot edit the lines in my text. They can't change these signs in the top corners or in the bottom corners. All they can do is do the text boxes. So that's quite a nice way of creating a worksheet type activity in Google Classroom. Next, I'm going to talk through emojis, which is a favourite of mine. I think we've all gathered that I like an emoji. Certainly, I haven't used them as often in the Google Classroom recently, but I see some people using them here and there, which does make me smile. So I've got emojis in the classwork section for all of the topics in the classwork. So I've put emojis in here. They don't work so well if you put them in the class name. It tends to come up as a box. The only emoji I found that does work in the name of a class is a star. Just if you want to use stars for every classroom, you're welcome to it. So to get emojis, if you're using a Windows laptop, you can hold down the Windows key on the laptop and press the full stop button. So if I am in an assignment, I can select the Windows key and press full stop, and I get a small emoji menu. Now this took me a very long time to discover. I found it on a Twitter post and I thought that's quite handy to know, very quick. So that's the Windows key on your keyboard if you're on a Windows laptop, followed by full stop. You can then browse through all the emojis and choose the ones that are most relevant. So I put in some French fries. Alternatively, and this is where I tend to go, I go to the website getemoji.com. Yes, see, I'm teaching you something new. You thought you knew emojis, you thought you knew where to get them. Windows key full stop. I think I learned it after I showed you Get Emoji, to be honest, quite recent. So the Windows key is I will show, it's along from the space along the bottom, and it's 4 tiles together. So if your keyboard is, if you've got a Windows laptop, along the bottom, you will likely have Control, the FN key, and then Windows should be next to that. It will be between the FN key and Alt if you do have it. If you don't have it, you will use the getemoji.com website, as it's a bit easier to get them. All I do is I highlight the emoji I want to use, I right click and copy, or if you're using the shortcuts, it's Control and C. And then I can go into this and I can paste that. So Control and V, or I can select paste. There is a shortcut for a Mac. I don't know it because I don't use Macs. I also know there's a shortcut for a Chromebook, and I've completely forgotten what it is. So there are shortcuts. I would just Google Mac emoji shortcut and it should be something. I really can't remember what it is. It was all in the same tweet that I saw the other week. So that's how we get emojis, and we can use them in our classroom as well. So I can then paste that into my classroom. They don't always appear in the same way on all laptops or all devices. So you may find that if you've got, so I use a Chromebook for my personal device, the emojis are far more modern looking, I would say, on my Chromebook than they are on my PC. So they do look different. Not all of them will appear. So if I go to get emoji, there are some somewhere, she says, oh, they're all appearing. Sometimes they will appear as a blank square, and that's just where you know that they're not going to work on all devices. But right now they all seem to be working for me. So I'm just going to close this download bar along the bottom, select hide, I'm ticking off as I go. So I'm now going to talk through the files that you may have shared with you in Classroom. So I know some people have got Classroom set up for your school staff, and you may have some documents that have been shared here as well that you want to have access to, and you want to be able to edit them yourself. So what you would need to do is open up the file. So I'm going to use my Techie Tea Party one as an example. Now I don't have many files that are shared with me in Google Classroom, but the process is the same. So if I have a document that has been put into the Google Classroom, it's shared on there. It may be that the person has used a shareable link to share it with you, or they may have uploaded the file directly into Classroom. Now, I think these go into the Classroom folder, but I could be completely wrong. So what I would do is I would open the file up. I would then go to File, make a copy of the entire presentation if it's in a slide deck. If it's not a slide deck, you just make a copy. And then this is where you choose your My Drive. Now, if you have a shared drive for your staff, so if you are using a shared drive, and this is where if you have edit access to the shared drive, if you select make a copy, if I go into my Digital Champions one, if I right click and select make a copy, that copy will just appear in that shared drive. So that's where it gets a bit annoying. So I always prefer to open the document itself and then go to that file, make a copy, entire presentation, and then this is where I can choose the folder. So by going into the folder option, I can go back to the point where I can see My Drive as an option and select My Drive. And now this copy will save in My Drive, and I can double check that by going to in the document, which will open straight away. And then once this loads, we get the small drive icon. Hopefully this will load very shortly. There we go. So I can click on this just to see where it's stored, and I can see it's in My Drive. So that's always where we can go to double check that we're on our own copy as well. And then if you get work sent in an email, can you add it to your classroom? So the students, if students are sharing work with you by email, what I would be saying to them is just reply and say, can you please add to your classroom? So if I open up a classroom where I am a student, I'm just going to open someone's trial class. I can go to one of the documents, or one of the tasks. So as a student, this is the student view. I can then open up the assignment, view the assignment, and rather than you having to go through all of your emails and add these documents to the assignment, get the students to start doing it, because the sooner they realise that they need to add it and not you, they will then just do it straight away and they won't rely on you to be doing all of that for them. So here, this is the student view of an assignment, and you will see the exact same in the Techie Tea Party classroom. You can open up the assignment, the student will see, even if you've put in a document for them, they can always add or create. You will note that they can remove it as well. So there's this X next to the document. So if a student accidentally removes it, I think it's still in their Google Drive in the classroom folder, but certainly it'll remove it from this task. But they can then add doc slides, and they can even upload files. So by selecting file, they can upload. So if they've got something on their own device that they want to share, they can upload that. That works for photos and everything there. Yes, their work automatically saves. So all of the work that you the student does, once it's handed in, it saves. So right now, if I open this up, you'll see that I've got a task to do. This has been done, you'll see. I can't move the task. This is all in the background, but I can write my ideas. I can't edit the task titles, but I can do this. So this has been set up following our slides activity. So what I can do is I can hand that in, and I'll hand that in to mark my work as completed. Now, when I come back to this, I just refresh the screen because it doesn't always do it. You will see that I have view only access. So as a student, I can't go and edit anything until my teacher has returned this to me. And let's see, so automatically save, yes, if they can find their copy, assignment, open their copy, grab the share link. Also, Gus has just shared a useful hack there, little life hack for us. So if a student cannot find their copy, he would go to this, open up their copy. So if I go into this one, so in the classwork section, if I go to the sheets, because I know that's one where I've made a copy for everybody, and if I view this assignment or view how many people have had it assigned to them, so if a student cannot find their work, I can then click on their name. So as you can see, it does take a little minute to load it all. I can select the student who can't find their work. So I'm going to find Angus as my example. And then what he does, let me just view this assignment. So this is the teacher view. I can then open that up. I can share the link to that, share the link quite easily, and then they can access that. And will it be there for months? So all of the work in Google Classroom, so in East Lothian and Mid Lothian, all the work that you do in Google Classroom is saved into your Google Drive. Let me go back to Drive. So in my Drive, I have a classroom folder. This is where all my classrooms are. Even classrooms that I have archived are visible here. From this, a student can then go and open up a piece of work, and this is their folio. So this saves, as I said in the Google Drive session, you have unlimited storage in Google Drive. So students, this Google Drive will stay with them as they move from primary school into secondary school. So this is a long profile or portfolio of their work that will move with them as they move between different school settings within that same authority. And what students can do afterwards is they can use something called Google Takeout to take that with them. So when they're in S6, S5, S4, when they're leaving school, or if they're at a point where they're moving to a different local authority, they can remove all of their work from that drive and put it into a personal Google account so that they can continue to access it. Let me just go through some more questions. There's not a way, Gus, to stop other Google Classrooms that you're not being added to your drive. So you can't stop that, unfortunately. Not that I know of. If you find a way, let me know. And yeah, not really the answer you're looking for. Next thing I have been asked to talk through is making sure that we're sharing documents. So certainly I've had some questions about adding audio into slide decks, and also adding documents onto a Google site. So if you're ever sharing a document from your Google Drive, whether it's an audio file so that you want people to be able to play it back, or if it is a Google site where you want parents, carers, families, children to be able to view a document, whether it's a slide deck, a Google Doc spreadsheet, for example, you need to make sure that you have enabled the link sharing. So if I wanted somebody, so if I was, I'll use this same presentation from earlier. This is just in my quick access folder, so I don't need to go scrolling through and find something appropriate. So if I wanted people to be able to use this, I can right click on it. So you need to do this within either the file, and I'll talk through that just shortly, or within your Google Drive. So if you want people to be able to listen to audio in slides and it's an audio file from your Google Drive, you'll need to do this. Likewise, if it is a document on a Google site, you will also need to do this. So if I right click on this and share, I can then get the shareable link, and right now automatically. So if you're sharing things with your students, simply have it set so that anyone in your organization can view. But if you're sharing it with the wider school community, you need to select this drop-down menu, go to more, and then anyone with the link. So that's where it doesn't really matter between the two, but certainly if you're sharing materials with your classes, if it's an audio file within a slide deck that you know that they're going to get from Google Classroom, anyone with the link in Edubuzz or mc.glow.scot can view, that's perfectly fine. But if it's something that you want to put on your Google site to share with the wider school community, with families, parents, carers, certainly if you're doing work for nurseries, I know quite a few nurseries are using Google Sites, make sure you have anyone with the link can view, because otherwise you're going to get an awful lot of requests for access to a file. So if you're in your Gmail, if you're in Edubuzz, or if you're finding in mc.glow.scot that students aren't able to view a file, it's because you need to turn on link sharing. That's the quickest way to do it, is that way. Now, one thing that's worth noting, and I'm going to share another screen, another document over. So this is my account that tends to get updates a bit faster than Edubuzz and so on. There's an update coming to how we share. So this is where how it looks slightly different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my Google Drive. You'll notice my family quiz night slides. Yep, they're all in there. And now if I go to share this, I'm going to right click, and if I select get shareable link from here, if I go to sharing settings, this is different now. So you'll notice it's changed. So this is going to be coming to the Edubuzz and mc.glow.scot account soon. It may already be at mc.glow.scot. They tend to get things a little bit faster. So now when I go into the sharing settings, I can add people at the top here. So if I started to type my eMackay1 at edubuzz.org, I can make it that I'm an editor, viewer, commenter. And that's for that one. And then I can come back. I actually prefer this. It's a lot easier for the shareable links anyway. So now in the get link, I can select, this is the domain for this account. I can then change it so that anyone with the link can view. If I change that, I can make anyone with the link a viewer, and done. So it's all in one place rather than what we currently have. Let me just move this out the way. Right now, when we do that, we go share, and then we have to go through this whole drop-down menu and do the different options. So that's changing, and it will be a bit easier for you to do the shareable links from that way. So the shareable links you need to use before you share any documents on your Google site, or before you share your audio in your Google Slides as well. So just make sure you've got that done. Let's see, one of my pupils has managed to find an assignment that I deleted as I didn't want to use it, and I don't know why. Had it on schedule but removed it. Interesting. I'm not sure what happened there, because I always figured that they wouldn't get any of it until it's posted. I'm not sure about that one. I would maybe report that one. So any issue that you find such as that within Google Classroom, Down at the bottom left, you have a question mark, and you can report an issue. So if you find an issue or you want to request a feature, I know a lot of us want to schedule in multiple classes. You can report an issue, you can include that screenshot, describe it, and the Google Classroom team pick all of these things up. Certainly they're very busy at the moment. So that's that one. Now I am going to go into Screencastify, I think. So we've done the sharing links, and before I move on, actually, there was a request to just talk through Google Drive and the different areas where things will be shared with you. So what I'm going to do is, if I just quickly show you, so your My Drive in here, unless it's got a little picture of, you'll see the little icon with a person symbol inside it. Anything that does not have that is owned by you. So these are all things in your My Drive that you own. Now, I know people tend to get a bit annoyed with the sheer quantity of stuff in your shared with me. You really don't need to worry about shared with me. I don't look at it too often unless I know someone has just shared something with me that I need to work on. Otherwise, I pretty much ignore it. So I'm going to go into the shared with me bit, and you'll see I've got different tasks that have been shared with me. I can scroll through. Now, I never look here, but if there is something that you do want to have access to quickly from your own Google Drive, or you want to organize things, you right click on any file, you can add a shortcut to your Google Drive. So if you know that you're going to be looking for that file again, adding a shortcut to your Google Drive then allows you to select where. So you could have a folder in your Google Drive that you like to go back and forth to for everyday documents. Certainly use this to add a shortcut. Yes, you can edit the class name after creating. I will show that before I move on to my laptop. And Google Site sharing. Yes, so the Google Site sharing, I'll show you embedding documents, but you just need to make sure you've linked it. So you need to do that, get Shareable Link, and duplicate assignments before, like weekly spelling. So you can reuse posts, and you just need to change the document. And I see Gus has answered the question about changing the class name, and for share with a class, type their Google Classroom details into the Docker sheet and then copy and paste them. That doesn't always work. So you would have a spreadsheet if you wanted to with all of your classes' EduBuzz details. So you could have a spreadsheet with all of their EduBuzz accounts. I wouldn't necessarily keep their first name, second name in that spreadsheet as well. Just have the list of the EduBuzz accounts. Then you can select. So if I open up this document, this is a pretend school. This made so many people panic on Monday when I shared this, because they suddenly had loads of names of random people in their document. So all you would do is I would select either the column, and then you can right click and select copy, and then you could put that into the share bit there. Just make sure it's EduBuzz or the mc.go.scot, and then you'll be able to do that. Just to quickly show changing a class name, in the settings cog, this is where you can change the class name quite easily, add descriptions, and then we can always, at any point, we can choose the level of access students have to the stream. You can change this at any point. It doesn't matter if you are in Midlothian or EduBuzz, just if you're in Midlothian, when I say mc.go.scot, that is what you use. So regardless of whether you're EduBuzz or not, it's just the domain name. So that's the bit at the end of the email address that you would use to make sure that you're sharing it with the right accounts. And let's just see. Google Doc Sheets, yes, that's that. Can everyone still see my screen? No. Let me just stop that. So some people can. I'll stop and refresh it just to make sure that everyone is able to see it, because I think some people are having some problems with being able to see it. Hopefully that is it back. So there we go. And finally, in terms of the yeah, you can edit the name from the 3 dots as well. So you can edit the name from, I think it's the 3 dots here, and then you can edit. So yeah, the meatball menu, I'll just make us all hungry before lunchtime. You can edit. Now the last bit I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some bits for Screencastify. Now typically this is where my screen sharing stops working. So I am now set up in a way that I will be able to see when that does stop working. And then that'll be us for the day. If there are more questions, I'll answer them on Wednesday. So this is probably going to spark more questions than I intended, but certainly I will answer them on Wednesday, and we'll do another Q&A session on Wednesday morning. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to start presenting from my laptop. So if I just present my entire screen, here we go, share, and then I will be able to see when this starts working on my PC. So now this is where things go a bit different for me because I'm not focusing up here anymore, I'm now focusing on my laptop. So I'm now on my laptop. This is, I use Chromebook, so this is where I've got these options down the bottom. Just worth noting, if you do have students who are using Chromebooks at home, they have built-in accessibility features such as select-to-speak dictation. They have some tools for students who can't put pressure on the touchpad, and they also have other additional settings such as a large mouse cursor. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use the one in here to highlight the mouse cursor just so it's a bit easier for you to see where I am working. As always, pop any questions in the chat. I can still access that from my PC. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use the Screencastify extension. I'm just going to type into the chat the upgrade code to get Screencastify premium features for free. Now this runs out, I think, either at the end of this month or next month. I'm not sure how long that will last for. It may extend simply due to the current situation with coronavirus. So I'm going to launch Screencastify. This is a screen recording tool. If you've never used it, it's my absolute favorite. So this is the best tool I think that you could have. This is a Chrome extension. So if you're using a work laptop and you're an East Lothian employee, you won't be able to install the extension. You'd be best using the screen recording tool in PowerPoint, or you can use screen recording in a web software called WeVideo. I'll just load that very quickly. I'm aware this is me throwing in a new tool into that, and you can sign into WeVideo with Google, and then you can do screen recording from there. So if I just quickly show this now, I have just learned how to do all of this week. So this is still quite new. I'm just going to do this and start creating. So WeVideo also has the option, if I make a video, has the option to do screen recording built in. So I'll choose to start editing, and you'll see I can record my screen. This now seems to have an upgrade. You can get a free upgrade for this. I don't know the code, but you can get the screen recording in there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Screencastify, and Gus is saying you can also use Flipgrid. That is one that I still need to spend some time looking at. If I'm launching Screencastify, I'm going to embed my microphone and my webcam. You can record the whole browser tab, the desktop, or just the webcam. I'm going to do the browser tab first, and then I'm going to go on and do the desktop as well. I'll do these quite quickly. If I select record, this is where I'm watching my other screen like a hawk. So you'll see the webcam in the bottom right-hand corner. This is now recording everything that I'm doing. I can resize this. Hopefully it's going to work for me. There we go. It's just been a bit slow. And I can resize that again. This is where my laptop's not liking having both Screencastify and Google Meet working at the same time. If I want to switch off the webcam at any point when I'm recording, I do Alt, the key Alt, ALT, and the W, and that will hide the webcam. But at any point, you'll also see I've got this menu along the bottom, so I can choose the webcam again. It will reappear, hopefully. I might have to do Alt W to make it reappear. Oh, it's hiding. I'm very, very slow. And Angus is also sharing Stuart Brown's video for using Flipgrid in the chat. So hopefully, oh, my webcam's not wanting to come back, but that's just because my computer's been really slow. So now This is where it's not gonna, there we go. My webcam came back eventually. And then I can stop recording. Now, all of your recordings in Screencastify, you'll see this is not like in Google Meet running at the same time. All your recordings in Screencastify will then save into your Google Drive straight away. So then you get the Screencastify menu and you can see the video. I can click to unmute and listen to it back. I can copy the shareable link from here and put this straight into my Google Classroom. And then I can also share to Classroom, or with the upgrade, which is using that cast_COVID. It's also worth noting in Midlothian, you have got Screencastify pushed out to your Google Chrome browser. So you should be able to get that. Just sign into your Chrome browser and you will have Screencastify. You will also have Text Helps Read and Write toolbar. So that's in Midlothian. You have Screencastify and the Read and Write toolbar. Worth exploring the Read and Write toolbar. I'm going to do a video for that very soon. And then you can also export just the audio. So if you were wanting to record audio to go over the top of a slides presentation, you can export that. And you can also just download the video as well. You can create GIFs as well. So if you wanted to create little reminders, you can download that. Many of these tools just appear in that premium version. If you do end up paying for the premium version, I think it's $50 for the full year, but right now it's free with that cast_COVID. So that little shortcut there was Alt and W to toggle on the webcam. And I'll just show that one more time. So that was in the browser tab. It also works in the desktop. On the website, if I go into the 3 lines or the hamburger menu, I can go to Help for Screencastify. This is certainly where I find all of this information. I can go into the knowledge base. I can get support with recording. And this is where we can also get some tips and tricks, the keyboard shortcuts as well. And there's a list of different shortcuts that you can use whilst recording. So you can pause it so that you can then get more things ready on your screen. Certainly, if you're like me and not the best video editor in the world, being able to pause is really quite handy. And there's other tools that you can use. Screencastify also has built-in kind of annotation tools that you can use. And let's just see any more in the chat. Subfolders in Screencastify work. I have never used them. I tend to just have one very unorganized Screencastify folder. So if I go into my drive, so this is where all your Screencastify recordings are saved straight into your Google Drive for both Midlothian and East Lothian. I have a Screencastify folder. This is where we might see that I take quite a lot of takes to do things. You'll see me popping up here and there. And that is where all of your Screencastify things are saved straight away. There is a limit for the time you can record for in the free version. I can't remember how long. I think it's 5-minute videos for the free version. This is, yeah, so I'm being tested. 5 minutes for the free version. But I think for the premium version, I don't know. I'll Google it. I'll Google it and get that answer to you in the Tech Tea Party thing. But I know that I've managed to record some very long videos in Screencastify. I mean, I wouldn't be recording any longer. I would try not to record longer than 5 minutes, mainly for attention span. You could then cut it into chunks. The videos that I post up, so in my YouTube analytics, I can see that on average, most people watch a Techie Tea Party video for about 5 minutes. So certainly it's not worth doing something that's going to take a long time, and have it split into chunks so that if you have an explanation, they can then go into an activity following that, and then have the next video to access rather than it all being in one long video. I don't tend to like to do videos. You'll laugh at this given the length of these meetings. That I don't like to do videos that are longer than a few minutes just because I want people to access it quite quickly. But obviously, if you are reading a story, for example, you'll want that upgrade so that you can then do that for a bit longer. And yes, so you can certainly have it so that the Screencastify link, once you've recorded it, you can then share it from your Google Drive as you would do any file. So if it was something you wanted to embed on a Google site, you can then do that link sharing, that get shareable link, switch that on. Anyone at EduBuzz can view as the default. or I can go into the sharing settings, go into the drop-down menu for the shareable link, select more so that anyone with the link can view if I want it to be public. You may find that some students have difficulty accessing some of your videos. That can be simply because it's still rendering onto Google Drive when you share it. So make sure that when you have it in Google Drive, if you click on it, that you're able to play it. Once you're able to play it, it will be able to be viewed by your students with that shareable link. And Gus is just sharing some tips on Flipgrid. Unfortunately, I've not used it yet. I've not quite had the time to go and explore it. But there is a video in the Google Classroom shared by Stuart Brown. You may need to scroll. I'll try and move that a bit closer to the top of the stream so that you can access it. But for now, I'm going to stop recording, and then I am going to, do we need it to be added to each of our Gmail accounts? For Screencastify, no, you don't need to have it added. You can have it just set on that one account that you use. If I now start presenting from my own computer for a second. So I've signed into the Google Chrome browser on my personal computer. So I can sign into this, and you'll see I've got the same extensions here that I had on my Chromebook. Likewise, if I go into different accounts, so I've got my Midlothian account, I have different extensions. So you'll see in the Midlothian account that I have, I've got the Read and Write toolbar, I've got Screencastify, and I've got Grid View. The reason I've got fewer here is because these are pushed out in Midlothian, so you can't go into the web store and add them. These are pushed out upon request from Glow. But certainly use the Screencastify if you can. If you can't, certainly go and do screen sharing from Flipgrid, as Gus has shared there, or you can use the WeVideo if you want to set that up. And yes, on Monday, I know it's an in-service day in East Lothian. In Midlothian, it is not. I'm going to be doing Gmail on Monday. It's going to be a nice one. It's going to be busy, but Gmail on Monday. And then Tuesday is setting up a YouTube channel, uploading videos, and then Wednesday we're doing another Q&A.